Xie Rongzhao has been reborn. After being reborn, she realized that not only was she a cannon fodder supporting actress, but her entire family was all cannon fodder from books. The weak mother passed away early, the genius fiancé died tragically, and even her stunning and talented beautiful father was disabled before he died. In this life, she wants to rid herself of cannon fodder with her family. So the cannon fodder female supporting character transformed into a group pet koi. Whoever the little koi likes is lucky, whoever hates, who's unlucky. Did someone bully the little koi? The beautiful father with a high heart and a dark heart will calculate every minute to ruin your family. Does anyone look down on the little koi? The cold-faced and ruthless fiancé shows you why the flowers are so red. And she, a 5-year-old girl, carries the big flag and earns money to support her family, selling cute things. She wants to bring back all the glory that belonged to her father and fiancé in her previous life. Not willing to let her father enter the officialdom. Father went straight to success. Want her fiancé's reputation as a child prodigy to fall. My fiancé is amazing. Want the Xie family to rot from the roots. The Xie family passed the imperial examination 3 times and leaped to become a distinguished figure in the current dynasty. Novel keyword. Lie down and win. Cannonball Dad, he became the leader without a pop-up window, lying down and winning. The cannon fodder father became the first to assist in downloading the complete set of TXT, lying down and winning. The cannon fodder father became the first to assist in reading the latest chapter. Chapter 1. Can I Still Live? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Can I Still Live? Let you bully me. Let you harm my parents. I'll make you die without a whole body. Xie Rongzhao slashed off the unconscious head of Fang Dashao with a clean and effortless motion, turning around and using the same technique. One head after another was mercilessly harvested by her. By the time she was exhausted from killing, she was covered in blood and looked terrifying. Her hands kept shaking, not because she was scared, but because she had chopped too many people. Her wrists had run out of strength. Dad and Mom, I have avenged you. Please forgive Zhao Zhao for keeping you waiting for so many years. Zhao Zhao is here to find you. Xie Rongzhao was completely stunned, with a face covered in blood and a smile on his face. The torch in his hand kept waving, but in just 15 minutes, the entire Fang family mansion was engulfed in flames. Xie Rongzhao laughed heartily and walked step by step into the sea of fire. Her spine, which had been bent for many years, was straight, without feeling any warmth or pain. The only thing she could feel was liberation. In a daze, she seemed to have seen her parents come to pick her up, and behind them seemed to be Brother Jingzhou. She heard them calling her, "Good baby, we're going home. Zhao Zhao, I'm here to pick you up." A big fire has become an unsolved case in Gao County, which has not been solved for many years. The sleeping little girl only felt pain all over her body, the burning pain, and felt like her bones were about to be burned. Dad, Mom. The little girl's facial features were almost all wrinkled together, her face pale, her lips devoid of blood, and her hands and feet were still struggling, indicating that she had been haunted by a nightmare. Finally, the little girl let out a low cry and slowly opened her eyes. After finally regaining his senses, Xie Rongzhao rubbed his eyes, let out a light sigh, and dreamt of something from his previous life. It has been almost half a month since she was reborn, and she finally realized that she had truly returned to the age of 5. However, she still feels a bit dazed every day, and memories of her past life always bounce out from time to time. Xie Rongzhao moved for a moment, and some of the old small beds also shook. A wave of curses came from outside. She's just a loser, why bother eating egg milk soup? She's really getting used to it. That goat milk is so precious, it's for a few grandsons to eat. She's just a lowly girl, where did she get lucky to eat this? Get out. No need to think, Xie Rongzhao could also guess that this was nice scolding the Nyang who went to the kitchen to make snacks for herself. At this moment, Sister Ciji was humiliated in front of her elders, and Xie Rongzhao couldn't do anything except feel heartbroken. I just said a few words to you. Who should I show you like this? After all these years of entering the door, I haven't seen you have a son. It's really useless. I really don't know what harm has been done. Why did our Xie family marry a broom like you to enter the door? I see that loser, like you, is coming to our Xie family to collect debts. Xie Anai's harsh words kept coming out one after another, and Xie Rongzhao suspected that the old lady was born to curse. After all this time, there was not a single sentence repeated. Suddenly, there seemed to be a moment of silence in the air, followed by the sound of the old lady kicking and stomping back into the room. Her mouth seemed to be still cursing, but the voice was much quieter and not very authentic. I've made you feel wronged. I heard that Guaibao is sick. I'll go inside and take a look. Aren't you going to make egg custard for Guaibao? Go ahead. Xie Rongzhao's eyes lit up, it was Daddy's voice. Today is Daddy's day off. Sure enough, the next moment, Xie Rongzhao heard the voice calling for her. Good baby, are you awake? Dad brought you sugar. Xie Xiuwen's voice seemed to have a natural charm, intertwined with coldness and warmth. Not only was it not discordant, but it was also extremely attractive. Only when he called her Guaibao did a hint of warmth appear in his voice. How long has it been since she heard Daddy's voice? Dad's throat was ruined in his previous life. If it weren't for saving her, he wouldn't have been calculated to lose his life. Xie Rongzhao felt that tears were about to fall again, so he quickly raised his hand and rubbed his eyes. Daddy. When the soft voice sounded, Xie Xiuwen also pushed the door in. At first glance, I saw my little cotton jacket sitting on the bed, with two eyes still staring blankly. It was really cute. Xie Rongzhao reached out his hand and looked aggrieved. Daddy, hold on. It has been half a month since he was reborn, and Xie Rongzhao is also very clear about what he wants and what he can do. She does not seek wealth and prosperity, but only seeks the safety and health of her father and mother. She is willing to sacrifice her longevity yuan in exchange. With this in mind, Xie Rongzhao suddenly threw himself into Xie Xiuwen's arms, his little arm climbing onto his neck, tightly hugging him, afraid of seeing him again in the future. Seeing his daughter so dependent on him, Xie Xiuwen was also happy, but then he felt his neck wet and realized that his precious daughter was crying. Guaibao, what's wrong? But you're feeling unwell. Speak up and don't make Daddy worry. Xie Xiuwen coaxed cautiously, fearing that his obedient daughter's condition would worsen. He tested the temperature of his daughter's forehead with his hand and confirmed that there was no fever. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. Xie Rongzhao refused to come out of his arms, just shook his head and hummed, I miss Daddy, I want Daddy to hug me. Xie Xiuwen was taken aback for a moment and burst into laughter. He thought it was because he hadn't come back for half a month this time, and his daughter missed him. Coupled with her illness, she must have been more delicate than usual. He thought he understood his daughter's thoughts, so he patted her back with a big hand and swayed his arms slightly, coaxing his 5-year-old daughter like a baby. Dad, what is helping others prevent disasters? Will he give a lot of silver? Xie Rongzhao blinked his bright big eyes and asked innocently. Xie Xiuwen felt a sudden surge in his heart and didn't show any signs on his face, saying, Why did you suddenly ask about this? Xie Rongzhao didn't agree and asked, I heard them say that as long as I stay at the Fang family for the first half of the year, they will give us a lot of silver. Xie Xiuwen looked more solemn and said, Where did you hear all this? Xie Rongzhao thought he had done something wrong and whispered, When I was confused, Uncle Nyang and second sister said it. They said Uncle owed the Fang family money, and Miss Fang San was hit by a disaster. I stayed there for half a year, blocked the disaster for her, and I can come back. Xie Rongzhao is still only a 5-year-old child, so she tries her best to make her words less smooth and complete, otherwise it won't be like a child's performance. But the key points that need to be said have also been explained clearly. Xie Xiuwen thought of the engagement mentioned by his wife when he was outside just now, and his mind began to understand. It's just some small trick, it actually took advantage of him. Xie Rongzhao pretended to be ignorant and said, "Daddy, if we were to block the disaster for others, wouldn't the disaster fall on me? Can I still live?" End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The whole family is cannon fodder. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The whole family is cannon fodder. Xie Xiuwen raised his hand and buried her small face in his arms, his eyes instantly turning cold. How dare he use his daughter to block the disaster? We also need to ask him first if he is willing. Xie Xiuwen is the second son of the Xie family, with an elder brother at the top and a third younger brother at the bottom. In the middle position, he is one of the least likable. Nowadays, only Xie Xiuwen has become a scholar in the Xie family, barely supporting his family. With his current identity, he is not only praised at home, but at least he cannot be inferior to other brothers. However, there is an extremely biased mother who looks down on him everywhere. Otherwise, this disaster prevention incident would not have fallen on his daughter's head. After pacifying his daughter, Xie Xiuwen went directly to talk to his father about the so-called marriage. You mentioned before that you would have to try the imperial examination again this year. This Fang family is a wealthy local family with a wide network of people. It would be beneficial for us to have a close relationship with the Fang family. Why are you so stubborn? After speaking, Grandpa Xie was dissatisfied and said, "Our family only has some land left. You have to take the imperial examination again. In the future, with the help of the Fang family, let alone the money, it will only be said that there are people from the Fang family working in the court. Will you also have a support in the future?" "Father, it's not that my son is stubborn, but rather that the reputation of the Fang family in the county is flawed. My son is a scholar, and our family is also considered a scholarly family. If we are involved with such a family and if something happens in the future, wouldn't it be like losing our Xie family?" Grandpa Xie hesitated and said, "How could it be so serious? Father, since you also expect me to invest in the land and shine on our family's reputation, we must be cautious in every aspect and not be criticized for our shortcomings. If our son doesn't go to the imperial examination next year due to the lack of wealth in our family, it will also be a problem." Nonsense. Grandpa Xie now points to this son's ability to become a jurin and come back to earn a share of glory for the family. When it comes to scientific research, how can he let his child play? Xie Xiuwen saw his father getting angry and stood respectfully on the side, but the firmness on his face was beyond doubt. Although Grandpa Xie couldn't bear to part with the wealth and prosperity of the Fang family, he still thought that the future of the Xie family was the most important, so he compromised and said, "Anyway, I will discuss this matter with your mother before discussing it." Xie Xiuwen's eyes flickered slightly. He knew that his parents were biased towards his elder brother, especially his mother, who could be said to be extremely biased towards her. At this moment, his father said he wanted to discuss with her, fearing that this matter would not be possible. Xie Xiuwen turned around and left the study, but he already had a plan in his heart. He cannot disobey his parents' decision. After all, he is still thinking about taking the imperial examination. If he carries the charge of unfilial piety, his future will be cut off. Now that he is a scholar, he has no status in the family. If he becomes a worthless person, that consequence, Xie Xiuwen couldn't even think about it. The matter of preventing disasters should obviously not be mentioned, otherwise, based on the understanding of parents, they will only think that they are causing trouble without reason and wronging their elder brother. Xie Xiuwen thought of his daughter's repeated illness this time, and it was most likely because he was scared by her sister-in-law's words that he improved and then became serious again. Don't think Xie Xiuwen is a scholar, that's easy to bully. Xie Rongzhao returned home in less than half an hour and hurriedly left. Jing Yuan, after listening to the old man's words, Grandma Xie's face darkened and she said in a sharp voice, "No way. If he doesn't let Zhao Zhao go to the Fang family, then he won't take the provincial examination next year either." Grandpa Xie frowned and said, "Nonsense. Scientific research is a big deal, it's about my family background. How could you be so reckless?" Xie and I ignored her and said, "Did he participate in the 2 rural exams? But did he win? Wasn't it a waste of money? After only teaching for a year, he's not being honest again. I don't think he wants to take the exam for his future. It's obvious that he's just being lazy and doesn't want to work for his family to earn money." Grandpa Xie choked and stared at his old wife speechlessly. "Your words really make no sense. I know you're leaning towards the boss, and I value him too. But the 3 brothers can only read it through Xiuwen now. Can we still let him ruin his future?" Although Grandpa Xie is also biased, at least he knows the importance. He is still very clear-headed when it comes to the whole family or even the entire clan. Xie and we didn't think so and insisted, "No, either we can send Zhao Zhao to the Fang family, or the second son will give up other thoughts and work hard to earn money to support the family. He can't take advantage of all the benefits." Grandpa Xie gave her a fierce glare, but remained silent. Xie Rongzhao frowned outside the door. What advantage did the second bedroom have? Dad became a scholar, and the one who got the duty-free land was also a big family of them. Moreover, his father is still a granary farmer and has money to get food every month. How could it be that Dad took advantage of his family? Xie Rongzhao was angry in his heart, but there was nothing he could do to stop the disaster. Oh no, in the mouths of Changfang and Nai, this was a close marriage. Being able to marry the most powerful Fang family in the town is something that many people envy, especially when they hear that there are still people from the Fang family who hold official positions in the court. With the temperament of Anai and uncle, they will not easily let go. Xie Rongzhao's little head was spinning rapidly. As long as he didn't go to the Fang family to block the disaster, Xie Rongzhao believed that the tragedy would not happen in the future. As long as he could change his fate of going to the Fang family to block the disaster, it proved that the so-called destiny could also be changed and resisted. Xie Rongzhao killed so many people in her previous life. She thought she was going to hell, but she didn't care. Anyway, she took all the revenge she deserved. Unexpectedly, her soul drifted into a white space, where she saw a book called The First Scholar and Xiaofu's Wife. After flipping through it, she realized that she was just an inconspicuous cannon fodder depicted in the book, and her family, without exception, all had cannon fodder fate. The book depicts almost the lives of the male and female protagonists. When Xie Rongzhao saw that his father and fiancé were all stepping stones on the male protagonist's path, he was completely angered. Why? Because of his talent and ability, he became a roadblock for the son of destiny. Not only do they have to die tragically early, but even the glory that originally belonged to them after death must be plundered by the male and female masters. Is there still the word justice in this world? Xie Rongzhao accepted her incompetence for a moment, feeling immense sadness and extreme unwillingness in her chest. Then, a wave of dizziness struck, and when she opened her eyes, she unexpectedly returned to her childhood when nothing tragic had yet happened. Xie Rongzhao couldn't understand why Anai didn't want her father to take the exam. Didn't she want the Xie family to have a good future? But now she was certain that Yinai wouldn't come up with any theoretical results for a while, so she boldly went to the small courtyard in the east. The small courtyard on the east side is inhabited by a Long family. It's rare that they all went out, so Xie Rongzhao wanted to bring back his things. We need to move faster, I'm afraid they'll come back soon. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Retrieve the bracelet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Retrieve the bracelet. Xie Rongzhao is here to find his own bracelet. Xie Rongzhao's room is not big. Besides her, there is also her own sister Xie Rongzhao living with her. Upon entering the door, Xie Rongzhao saw Xie Rongzhao's jewelry box and placed it on the semi-new dressing table. The jewelry box was newly made and very large. Xie Rongzhao felt that it was even larger than her aunt's jewelry box. She raised her hand and tried, but couldn't reach it. She was still a short stature, so she had to struggle to climb up the embroidery mound on the side and then stand on it, barely touching the box. Xie Rongzhao had no time to pay attention to the other objects in the room and was determined to retrieve his bracelet. A silver bracelet with tangled branches, inconspicuous but exquisitely crafted, very beautiful, and also the meeting gift given by the Qing family when the two families were engaged. In their previous life, Xie Rongzhao was rumored to be unclear with the young master of the Fang family. Xie Shiran and Gao took this opportunity to forcefully withdraw from the Qing family, and the bracelet was not returned to the Qing family on the grounds of being lost. Not long after her parents passed away, this bracelet fell into Xie Rongzhao's hand. Later, it was crushed and passed on to the female lead's hand. From then on, the female lead's fortune soared to the sky, no longer comparable to ordinary people. While reading that book, Xie Rongzhao was pondering whether the other party's so-called good luck was related to this bracelet, right? After Xie Rongzhao retrieved the bracelet, she glanced back at her makeup box and casually took 2 silver hairpins, a silver bell, a small silver lock, and a pair of pearl earrings. These were all their belongings, but after being borrowed by Aunt and Xie Rongzhao, she claimed them as her own under the pretext of accidentally losing them. Now that there is an opportunity, it is natural to take it back. As for whether he is upright or not, Xie Rongzhao doesn't care about these things. Anyway, this was originally her thing, and she doesn't have any plans to wear it at the moment, she just collects it for now. At this moment, Xie Rongzhao was extremely grateful for the decline of the Xie family in recent years. If it had been in the past 2 years, there were still 3 or 4 maids in the family, and she could not have easily succeeded. Xie Rongzhao returned to her room and locked everything, except for the bracelet that she had worn in her hand. After putting on the bracelet, Xie Rongzhao didn't know if it was her own illusion. She felt that her body had suddenly relaxed a lot, and the previously oppressive feeling that had been pressing on her chest dissipated. What Xie Rongzhao didn't notice was that the bracelet was clearly prepared for a girl with a hairpin. How could she wear it with just her small arms and legs? Sure enough, her arms were too slender. When she first put them on, they were extremely uncoordinated and could fall off without swinging her arms. Just as Xie Rongzhao looked down, the size of the bracelet automatically adjusted to just the right size. Xie Rongzhao was surprised by this detail and felt even more that it was a good treasure that should never be lost again. In the town, Xie Xiuwen, dressed in a green shirt, looked at the large mansion in front of him, and then lowered his head to look at his old clothes that were washed white. His heart was filled with complexity. He knows that the Fang family is acting recklessly, not just relying on someone serving as an official in the court. Even the supervisor of the county official is highly regarded by the other party. Now he is just a mediocre scholar. What can he do to make the Fang family relax? Xie Xiuwen took a deep breath, wanting to explain the matter clearly without offending the Fang family. It's really not easy. Fang Zhai, with a round head and a round belly, sat there like 2 big watermelons, one big and one small, which was quite amusing. At this moment, Xie Xiuwen's face was solemn and he bowed, saying, "Mr. Fang, if you rashly come to the door, I will be impolite." "Mr. Xie, you're welcome. Please take a seat quickly," said Mr. Fang, who still wants to give Mr. Xiuzai some thin noodles after sitting calmly. Xie Xiuwen never drank tea and admitted, "I'm not afraid of Fang Yuanwei's jokes. My family is restless, and I didn't expect my 5-year-old daughter to be implicated. Today, I rashly came to my door, hoping to make it clear to Fang Yuanwei that I have no intention of getting married." Mr. Fang's eyes widened and his face darkened. The teacup was heavily placed back on the table, splashing out a few drops of tea. Could it be that Xie Rongzhao looks down on our Fong family? Xie Rongzhao smiled bitterly and said, Xie dare not. The Fong family has a big business, and it seems that my Xie family is not worthy of the prestigious family. To be honest, my child is weak and sickly, and has been pampered by her mother. I only found out after taking a break this time that the child has been suffering from high fever for several days. I am also worried that we cannot get married, but instead we have formed a grudge. As Fong Yuany's eyes turned, his heart naturally had multiple calculations. Is this different from what your older brother said? Xie Rongzhao's eyes were cold. It was indeed Xie Rongzhao who caused the ghost. To be honest with Mr. Fong, since the child is young, her mother's health and bones are not very good. I don't need to deceive you about this, as it is well known in the Xie family village. I only have one daughter now, and I don't hope she will become wealthy and prosperous in the future. I just hope she can grow up safely. There are too many meanings in this statement. Fong Yuany also had to be cautious. They wanted to get married to this family because they wanted to bring the young child of the Xie family into the mansion to protect their daughter from disaster. However, if this was already a sick seedling, wouldn't it be causing trouble for the Fong family? If the Xie family are ordinary people, it's fine. There is one Xie Rongzhao, and she is his only daughter. If something really goes wrong, there will be some entanglement. With a glance from outside, the servant waiting at the door quickly left. Xie Rongzhao also pretended not to know, still with a worried expression on his face. Mr. Fong, your family is wealthy and there are probably many who want to marry the Fong family. Xie is also worried about his daughter's weak health, and if he brings some illness to the Fong family, it may be that the two families have become enemies. The elders in the family do not know the reason behind this, but think that Mr. Fong is willing to support us because he sees our child as pitiful. This is not Xie's original intention. Xie Rongzhao's words are too beautiful. Originally, the Fong family wanted to bring people in to block the disaster, but in the end, the people who blocked the disaster were either dead or alive, sick or disabled, but no one could have anticipated. Unfortunately, Xie Rongzhao turned the tables and said that the Fong family was promoting the Xie family, while Xie Rongzhao was weak, sickly, and unlucky. In this way, he not only put a high hat on the Fong family, but also made the members of the Fong family feel uneasy. If he really hit the target and brought evil, would it be like bringing in a disaster? In just a short while, Mr. Fong's mind had already changed. However, he still wanted to wait and listen to what news his servants could uncover. He couldn't be sure that Xie Rongzhao hadn't deceived him. I haven't received any news from the servant yet, so I'll wait for the lady first. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The owed silver should be repaid. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The silver owed in Chapter 4 should be repaid. Mrs. Fong has been paying attention to Xie Rongzhao's visit, which concerns her daughter. Of course, she cares. At this moment, hearing Xie Rongzhao's words, it was natural that he couldn't sit still for a long time. The messenger invited the master over. Since Xie Rongzhao is weak and sickly, why do we still want to get involved? If we infect our daughter with the disease again, wouldn't it be harming her? Besides, Xie Rongzhao is now a scholar, who knows if there will be a big future in the future. If Xie Rongzhao dies in our family, wouldn't it be causing trouble for our family? With so many people actively seeking marriage, it's not necessary to point fingers at Xie Rongzhao alone. Why should we take risks with our daughter and the family's future? Mr. Fong had changed his mind a long time ago, and now, after Mrs. S. analysis, his mind immediately became even clearer. Madam is right, there's no need. It's not that there's no one else besides Xie Rongzhao, but Xie Rongzhao didn't handle this matter kindly. Even though it's a minor illness, he dares to deliberately boast in front of us. I can't spare him for this. It's also a coincidence that a little girl who doesn't usually appear in the front yard actually came over and said she knew about the Xie family. The Fong couple gave a glance and immediately asked her to say everything she knew. My servant's house is not far from Xie family village, and one of my aunt's cousins married to Xie family village. I heard that Xie Rongzhao and his wife were very affectionate, and after several years of marriage, they only got one girl, but I never wanted to take a concubine. However, I heard that the little girl was petite and weak, and she didn't usually go out much. Once, I saw her from afar. She was thin and small, and it didn't seem like she was lucky. This girl is not lying. Xie Rongzhao, a scholar, is not valued at home, let alone his daughter. Although the Xie family did not say they were hungry for her, it was just that they were not hungry for her. The good things in the family were first tightly held by those grandchildren, followed by Xie Rongzhao and others, and finally it was Xie Rongzhao's turn. It's not uncommon to prioritize men over women here. Upon hearing the maid's description, Fong Yuanwei felt that this girl was not a lucky one. In his impression, a lucky person must be white, fat, thin, and small. What kind of luck is there? Don't have any more lesions. If you really come to his house, don't fail to protect your precious daughter and instead harm her. I heard that Master Xie of the Xie family has always been at odds with Xie Rongzhao, always pretending to be his elder brother and pretending to act under the guise of brother Rongzhao when acting outside. As a result, their brothers have had many disputes, and I dare to say one more thing. This Master Xie may have intentionally sent Xie Rongzhao's daughter over, which not only suppressed Xie Rongzhao but also relieved his hatred towards our Fong family. Mr. Fong frowned and said, "Did Mr. Xie count the money lost in the gambling room on their Fong family?" Mr. Fong has been in business for many years and has met a variety of people, so he naturally guessed Xie Rongzhao's thoughts. This is thinking of killing two birds with one arrow. Upon reflection, Mr. Fong was already annoyed by Xie Rongzhao. After a while, the servant who was sent out also returned. He didn't go to Xie family village, but went to several hospitals in the town. It was confirmed that Xie Rongzhao was right. He just bought medicine from the Ping'an hospital a few days ago. So, Fong Yuanwei had even more resentment towards Mr. Xie. If it weren't for him actively posting it, how could he care about a little doll? Towards evening, Xie Rongzhao returned with a steward wearing the emblem of the Fong family. Xie Rongzhao is going to study in the capital next month, and no one at home is aware of this matter, just afraid of further complications. He knew he couldn't convince his mother, and although his father was concerned about his achievements, his ears were soft with his mother. He was afraid that if she nagged him a few more words, his father would agree. So, let's just cut corners and talk about the long-term housing issue. Without the involvement of money, I believe they don't need to have any more good intentions. Xie Rongzhao was dressed in a blue shirt, with a refined temperament, but his face was slightly cold, especially his eyes, which were like the cold ice of the 12th lunar month, making people dare not look directly at him. Grandpa Xie didn't know why, but when he was invited to the front hall, he still looked confused. "Rongzhao, what's wrong with this?" Xie Rongzhao bowed and said, "Father Rong reported that when my son heard about his marriage with the Fong family today, he felt it was not appropriate. He then sent someone to inquire carefully, and only then did he realize that our Xie family's words and actions were at fault. He personally went to the Fong mansion to meet with Fong Yuanwei and retrieve my family's birth date and 8 characters. In addition, Fong Yuanwei sent someone to inform his elder brother that the money he owed was due in 3 days. Grandpa Xie was stunned and looked at his own son, then at the servant of the Fong family. For a moment, he didn't know which question was appropriate to ask. In front of Butler Fong, Xie Rongzhao claimed that his family was at fault, which clearly gave the Fong family enough face. The butler is satisfied and will naturally sell Xie Rongzhao to the master after returning to the mansion. At this moment, Xie Rongzhao walked in with a broad and plump heart, his newly made long shirt made of delicate and glossy material, complemented by his jade pendant at the waist, giving him a wealthy and noble appearance. When the butler saw Xie Rongzhao come out, he immediately frowned and said coldly, "Uncle Xie, the 50 taels of silver you owe will expire in 3 days. My master specially sent me to inform you that your Xie family is also somewhat prestigious. Don't break the rules. If you don't repay it on time, would my master use your arms and legs to talk things over, or would it be better to report it to the county government? Threat. Naked threat. Xie Rongzhao was so scared that his legs were weak. He immediately turned his pleading gaze to his father, and no surprise, he received an angry glare. Although they only sent the butler of the Fong family, who made their family wealthy, and there were still people in the court. The butler's score is bigger than that of ordinary landlords, but unfortunately others can't afford it. Master Xie, I have brought it with me, and Xie Rongzhao has already stated that he will not be involved in any marriage with our master. Therefore, let this matter go, and Master Xie should repay 50 taels of silver as soon as possible. After speaking, the steward also left without looking back. Originally, they were sent by the creditors, so it was designated as a high-level official. If it weren't for the concern of having a scholar like Xie Rongzhao around, they might have been even more crazy. And the most important thing is that Fong Yuanwei was angry about Xie Rongzhao's deception earlier, so he naturally wanted to teach him a lesson. Xie Rongzhao covered up his borrowing of money in every way, so he naturally had to expose it in public so that he could regret it. Xie Laosan, who hurried to the front hall, only had time to hear the debt reminder and looked over with a buzzing sound in his mind. Big brother, how could you owe so much silver? What did you do? End of this chapter. Chapter 5, So let Zhao Zhao go to block the disaster. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5, So let Zhao Zhao go to block the disaster. The Gao family in the long room helped Xie Anhui arrive late and did not see the Fong family, but heard Xie Laosan's questioning voice. Gao felt a panic in her heart, feeling that things were going to be worse. Xie Anhui didn't expect that her second son had only returned in half a day, and this matchmaking incident had turned yellow. Even the fact that her eldest son owed gambling debts was exposed. Master, don't worry, Rongzhao didn't mean to do it. It was just that Fong family set a trap, otherwise how could he lose so much silver? Xie Rongzhao raised his eyebrows and pursed the corners of his lips, which was a suppressed smile. Unexpectedly, my mother's arrival directly pierced through that layer of hypocritical facade. This saved him a lot of trouble, and the effect should be even better than he expected. Sure enough, Grandpa Xie heard his old wife's words and his eyes widened like copper bells in an instant. He angrily rebuked, "Damn it! How dare you still gamble? I think you're tired of living." No one expected that the old man would suddenly become angry. The teacup on the table was thrown towards Xie Rongzhao's face, and although Xie Rongzhao dodged it all at once, it still hit his shoulder. Just hearing him snort, it was clear that this strength was not light. No wonder Grandpa Xie is so angry. The Xie family is also an official. Xie Rongzhao's great-grandfather, Xingguan, reached the 5th rank. Only because he was implicated by the main branch of the family, he was later removed from office, which returned to his hometown and became a rich man. Due to the influence of his great-grandfather, his father Xie Cheng's future was also considered hopeless. Since then, he has been depressed and unfulfilled. Later, he got married and had children and separated families. As he was not good at management, Xie's property under his name is only 100 acres of fertile land, and there is also such a 2.5 courtyard in the countryside. Grandpa Xie complained to everyone, and his brothers also had some criticisms towards him. After dividing the family, the brothers became much more distant from each other. Perhaps because he was always holding his breath, he had been strict with his 3 children, hoping that one could red it out and shine on his family's reputation in the future. Unexpectedly, a gambler emerged. And he is also his most trusted eldest son. This really makes Grandpa Xie feel heartbroken. Seeing Xie Rongzhao being smashed, Xie Rongzhao sneered silently. Where did that come from? You still have to endure it later. Father, It was my elder brother who took the initiative to marry Mr. Fang. He knew that the Fang family was trying to protect their young daughter from disaster, so he even pushed Zhao out, so as to avoid the gambling debt of 50 taels of silver. It was only recently that outsiders were present that my son couldn't speak up. Now that only his own family is left, I still ask my father to make the decision and seek justice for my family's Zhao. Xie Rongzhao's voice was not loud, but he was particularly powerful. After listening for a while, Grandpa Xie didn't react. He knew that the second brother had only revealed the truth now, which had already given the boss face. If he had just said it in front of that outsider, it would have really shamed the Xie family. Xie Rongzhao owed a gambling debt and even had the delusion of pushing his niece out to pay off the debt. If this were to spread, their reputation would be ruined. Grandpa Xie was furious and said, "You bastard! Kneel down to me." Xie Rongzhao had already panicked and would do whatever he heard. When he knelt down with a thud, he couldn't help but let out a groan, clearly indicating that his knee was hurting. "Damn it, I thought you couldn't do well in your studies. At most, you could just be an idle person. I didn't expect you to dare to gamble. I think you think your family is too comfortable, and you want to waste your family property and go begging together to make a living. Dad, I was wrong, I was really wrong, I didn't mean to, I was also calculated by someone. Dad, I swear I didn't really take the initiative to go, I just ate too much alcohol and was deceived by them. Dad, I originally wanted to seek justice, but the Fang family is so powerful that my son dare not provoke me." Xie Rongzhao said coolly, "So you dare to push my Zhao Zhao out to block the disaster?" Xie Rongzhao hesitated for a while, but couldn't come up with a word. Mrs. Xie and Mrs. Gao now understand that the matter has been exposed, not to mention pushing Zhao and her daughter out to prevent the disaster. They are afraid that the disaster in their own house will come soon. Xie and I glared at Xie Rongzhao with a displeased expression and said, "Second, how did you speak? That's your big brother. How can you disrespect your big brother?" The room was quiet for a moment, and both Xie and his wife looked at their mother with an incredulous expression on their faces. Did they catch the wrong point? Xie Rongzhao seemed to have become accustomed to this and didn't look at her. Instead, he looked directly at Grandpa Xie and said, "Father, I only have one daughter under my knee now, Zhao Zhao. Does big brother behave like an elder brother?" Grandpa Xie was about to start comforting her when Grandma Xie spoke in a sharp voice and said, "Don't make such a fuss here. We all know about getting married, and before you came back, we all agreed. According to what you mean, is it because our whole family wants to harm Zhao Zhao or not?" Xie Anhui is clearly trying to change her concept. Getting married is one thing, but blocking disasters is another. Xie Rongzhao said calmly, "So my father also agrees with my mother's words. He thinks that even if my elder brother knows it's for disaster prevention, he should push out my Zhao Zhao. Is it just because he owes 50 taels of gambling debt?" Grandpa Xie opened his mouth and was speechless for a moment. How do you answer this? Anyway, it's Xie Rongzhao's fault. This is deceiving my niece. Xie Anhui saw that Xie Rongzhao ignored her and felt that her son had been raised for nothing. She didn't even see him in her eyes, so she took 2 steps and raised her hand, pointing and cursing, "You heartless bastard. You've read so many years of books into your dog's belly. If it weren't for your big brother and his family helping, where would you get the money to study these years? Now that you've become a scholar, you don't see your big brother in your eyes anymore. I think you're ungrateful." These words made Xie Rongzhao laugh angrily. Just before he could refute, Xie Laosan spoke up first. "Mom, isn't that right? Our family has always been on a pedestal, isn't it? Just like my big brother, he can't carry his shoulders or pick his hands, and even if he calculates, he can't understand what he can do. If it weren't for his own muddled accounts, our store in town wouldn't have had to sell at a loss last year." The room was once again in a terrifyingly quiet atmosphere. Xie Rongzhao, however, slightly curled his lips. He must be a reliable third brother. Xie Enwi's face was calm and she wanted to find fault again, but she was scolded by Xie Enwi twice. You can say a few words less. Even if the boss did something wrong, don't think about it. If this news spreads, how will he go out and meet people in the future? Xie Xiuwen lowered his head slightly. Do you think outsiders don't know now, and no one will know in the future? Can you manage these people in your own family, and can you also manage the Fong family? Of course, now he doesn't have the kind heart to remind the parents above. If Xie Xiuran dares to think of harming his girl, then he must have the courage to bear the consequences. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Scapegoat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The Scapegoat. What Xie Xiuran did, even if Xie Xiuwen wouldn't reveal his family's shame, the Fong family wouldn't easily let him go. A person like Fong Yuanwei, who is conceited and relies on others, will only feel that Xie Xiuran played a trick on him and will definitely give him a good lesson. Grandpa Xie let out a heavy sigh and had to say that due to his wife's recent disturbance, his anger had dissipated a bit. Xie Xiuwen looked at the parents in the main position. How could he not understand their preference for the long house? It's probably impossible to really deal with my elder brother, but it doesn't prevent him from collecting some interest. However, he is not certain. After all, he also knows to what extent the bias over the years has been. At this moment, a soft and cute voice with a crying tone rang out. Daddy, I don't want to be sold. Daddy, Grandma, don't sell me. I'm obedient, I don't want anything, don't sell me. I saw a little doubting wearing half-new clothes, holding an old money box, and rushing straight into Xie Xiuwen's arms. Dad, I have copper coins. Give this to Uncle, don't sell Zhao Zhao, don't sell me. Xie Rongzhao is so smart. She just said, don't sell me, to convict Xie Xiuran and make Grandpa Xie open his eyes to realize the seriousness of the situation. This is Xie family village. If the family members knew what Xie Xiuran had done, they might not have the face to see anyone. Zhao Zhao is good, no one dares to sell you. You are the daughter of Auntie. Who dares to sell you? I will fight with him. Lu Rolan, who has always been weak and cowardly, now glared at Xie Xiuran and Gao Shi with a hint of hatred. If it weren't for the two of them being ghosts, how could they, Zhao Zhao, suffer from this shameless disaster? Xie Xiuwen hugged his daughter and gently coaxed, good baby, don't cry. You are my daughter, how could you sell you? No, only those malicious things would think of selling someone else's daughter to pay off their debt. The faces of the Xie family were not very good, and Xie Enwi's expression became even faster. Second, what are you talking nonsense about? Who are you cursing at? Xie Xiuwen only lowered his head to coax his daughter and did not speak. Xie Rongzhao noticed that Grandpa's face was not good, and he said with a tearful tone, Grandpa, Zhao Zhao is well behaved. He keeps a close eye on good food and drink for his brothers and sisters. Don't sell Zhao Zhao, okay? Is it really a granddaughter who is crying so much now and saying such heartwarming words? How could Grandpa Xie still lean towards the long house? It's all you bastard who did it. Look at what scared the child like. Our Xie family is doing well, how come we've reached the point of selling children and women? Grandpa Xie was completely unaware that he had also been misled by Xie Rongzhao's words. Dry marriage. Disaster prevention. Grandpa Xie's mind is now filled with jokes from his relatives about his granddaughter's selling face. Xie Xiuran remained silent, while Gao Shi on the side sneered and curled her lips, clearly not taking it seriously. Xie Xiuwen's eyes were slightly cold, and he said with a hint of anger, Big brother, we have been reading books of sages since we were young. I have always respected Big brother. Before, Big brother clearly loved Zhao Zhao very much and even bought her a tambourine, but now. Xie Xiuwen glanced at Gao Shi without leaving a trace, then lowered his head and sighed. With his demeanor, Xie Anua on the side naturally saw it clearly, and with a blink of her eye, she angrily rebuked Gao Shi on the side. "It's all you punk. Kneel down." Gao was scolded by her mother. Law, what happened to her? Although confused, one still needs to kneel. As expected by Xie Xiuwen, Xie Anai and Xie Shiran shifted all the responsibility onto Gao Shi, only saying that it was this Gao Shi woman who was short-sighted and had shallow eyelids that they came up with the idea of borrowing Xie Rongzhao to block the disaster and repay the debt of the Fang family. Gao didn't expect the matter to be exposed, but she became the scapegoat. She did participate, but clearly it was a few people who agreed together, so why did she become the mastermind? Xie Xiuwen looked coldly at Gao Shi kneeling there to defend himself, but his mind was thinking that his obedient treasure should not have a fever again tonight. Xie Xiuwen's wife, Lu Rulan, couldn't sit still at this moment. Lu Rulan has always been known for her gentle temperament. When she heard that her daughter was being pushed out to prevent the disaster, it was her sister-in-law's idea, which immediately angered her. "Sister-in-law, since I married into the house, I have never had a quarrel with you. Where did my family's Zhao Zhao offend sister-in-law and plan to harm her like this? Even a 5-year-old sister in law can handle it. Why is sister-in-law so cruel?" Lu Rulan's father was a scholar, and her great-grandfather had also passed the imperial examination. Since childhood, he had studied and practiced calligraphy, which was too harsh and vulgar for her to scold. She could only say these few words over and over again, and then she covered her face and wept bitterly, feeling both heartbroken and self-blaming. The matter of blocking the disaster was just a matter of causing a commotion for a while before it subsided. Who would have let Xie Xiuwen lose the heart of the elders? What everyone is most concerned about is still the 50 taels of dead silver. As for whether the victim was Xie Rongzhao and whether Xie Shiran had the intention of killing Xie Rongzhao, how could the elders care? And it is not difficult to see from the attitude of the two elders just now that Xie Rongzhao is obviously not as important as 50 taels of silver. Lu Rulan was crying and wailing, and Xie Xiuwen felt heartbroken, but Xie Anui listened and became annoyed. "All right. I'm not dead yet, I'm in mourning." Xie Anui's howl startled everyone, especially Lu Rulan, who turned pale in fear. She tightly gripped the handkerchief in her hand, and her daughter was almost killed. Can't she cry a few more times? Seeing the culprit inside the room, my mother-in-law was not thinking about how to punish her for doing wrong, but rather came to scold her, the bitter master. Lu Rulan's heart has cooled halfway. Xie Rongzhao, who was held in Xie Xiuwen's arms, was also so frightened that his body trembled. This was almost an instinctive reaction, but it made Xie Xiuwen feel even more guilty in his heart. Xie Rongzhao was still sobbing and burping, but turned around to coax Lu Rulan. "My mother doesn't cry. My grandpa just said that I won't sell Zhao Zhao. My grandpa is in charge of the family, and my grandpa the final say. Just apply eye drops to grandpa without leaving a trace." Sure enough, when Grandpa Xie's sharp and cold gaze glanced over, Grandma Xie couldn't help but tremble for a moment, then her eyes flickered and she didn't open her face. "Mother, Rulan only cares about her daughter. Big brother's actions are not right. If he wants to repay his debt, why not send his daughter to the Fang family?" Xie Xiuwen was also very angry. Why did the silver owed by Changfang harm their second wife? Do you really think they are easy to bully? What are you shouting for? Being able to marry the Fang family is a great blessing for you. It's because you don't know how to cherish and don't want this relative. Don't say anything about repaying debts or not repaying debts. If you really let Zhao Zhao into the Fang family, won't you still be the one who benefits? Your elder brother is looking towards you, thinking of you in his heart, otherwise he can take Zhao Zhao's turn. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. What is separation? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. What is separation? Xie Rongzhao was shocked and couldn't even listen to Grandpa Xie on the side. That's too shameless to say. Xie Laosan couldn't help but burst out laughing. Mother, look at what you say about Big Brother like a living bodhisattva. Since blocking disasters is such a good thing, why doesn't Big Brother let Rong or Xian go? Do you still remember Second Brother? With Big Brother's usual style, if he doesn't search Second Brother's house completely, it's considered that he has a good conscience. He even said to Second Brother, don't say such things that make people laugh. Xie Laosan's wife also muttered along, that's right, the material that my second sister.in.law used to wear as a dowry is still worn by my eldest sister.in.law. Do you still care about my second brother's family? The sound was not loud, but it was enough for everyone in the room to hear clearly. Xie Rongzhao raised his eyebrows, with a hint of smile in his eyes. Xie Rongzhao's soft and cute voice rang out again. Yes, yes, good things matter to Sister Rong. I'm very obedient and won't compete with her. I used to play with things my uncle gave me, so I won't compete with her. Let her go. After speaking, he nodded in a young adult-like manner, as if he really wanted to give up something precious. This appearance not only didn't make Grandpa Xie laugh, but also made his old wife even more annoyed. If that's the case, what face does he have here if it gets out? Outsiders can tell from just a few words how the Xie family treats the second house harshly and favors the eldest house. Is that shameful? Grandpa Xie is someone who values face. He can be biased, but he cannot let outsiders say anything. Therefore, he is still a wise parent. Xie Rongzhao sneered, yes, our Xie family is also considered to have a clean family background. The children have been familiar with the story of Kong Rong giving up pears since childhood, so only my obedient treasure gave up to Rong's sister. Let Rong's sister do such a good thing, where can my obedient treasure go? Xie Anhui was so angry that she pointed at Xie Laosan's nose and was about to scold him. Xie Grandpa scolded her again and she had to sit back. Xie Rongzhao had long lost hope for his parents in his heart, but when he thought about his daughter almost being tricked, his heart was filled with pain and constant fear. As his own father, he is sitting here now, but he cannot even bring justice to his daughter. He is truly unworthy of the trust his wife and daughter have in him. And what Xie Rongzhao is more concerned about is that the baby daughter doesn't speak much since she entered the house, but several times she speaks are crucial. Is it difficult for this child to be precocious? Grandpa Xie didn't expect his eldest son to do such a thing. After coughing twice, he forcefully brought the topic to repayment. As for whether the second house was wronged, Grandpa Xie didn't even mention a word. Alright, let's talk about the matter of silver. Next year, the second son will also participate in the township examination. The 50 taels of silver can be taken out by the family, but once it's spent, the second son's decision to go to the capital to study may have to be delayed for a long time. As soon as Grandpa Xie spoke, the third head of Mr. Xie stopped working. Since it's owed by the big brother, why should we go and help repay the money? Gao retorted, why can't you help us repay the money when our family can support our second younger brother's education? Humph. Can that be the same? Although my second brother spent money on studying, he also brought benefits to our family. Not to mention the actual duty-free land, but the people of Xie family village now all look up to our family. Is our status in the clan higher? After Xie Laosan finished speaking, he sneered again, second brother has spent money, but he can also earn money and bring glory to the family. What has big brother done with his money? Apart from eating, drinking, prostitution, and gambling, I haven't seen him make any contribution to the family. There's nothing wrong with this statement, but it's because there's nothing wrong that it's even more frustrating for Grandpa Xie and Grandma Xie. Anyway, he is the eldest son they value the most. Grandpa Xie only feels a severe headache. 2 oil lamps were lit in the hall, but still a bit dim. Xie Rongzhao looked at the long-married couple with a cold and thin expression in his eyes. If it weren't for his own clear investigation and sacrificing his face to reclaim the 8 characters, his obedient treasure wouldn't have known what fate to bear, and his wife's reputation would probably have been completely lost. Outsiders who don't know the inside story would only think that he is a talented scholar who relies on selling his daughter's silver money to study and take exams. Isn't it that people criticize him for being cold and ruthless? The light was dim, and there were sleeves blocking it. His fists clenched tightly to suppress the hatred in his heart. Several grandchildren of the Xie family are eavesdropping outside in the corner, and Xie Rongzhao's face is constantly changing. From time to time, she also has to endure the disdainful gaze of her cousins, and she can be said to be nauseous in her heart. 50 taels of silver is not a small amount. For an ordinary farmer, a family of 7 or 8 can only chew 2 or 3 taels of silver per year. Even Mr. Xie and his large family, apart from providing flowers for scholars, only 10 taels of silver will be spent by the rest of the society in the next year. Now, with 50 taels of silver, you can repay the gambling debt to the boss. That's impossible. Xie Anhui naturally cried and cursed repeatedly, just thinking that she was the eldest son. This family was originally to be inherited by him in the future, how could she be so concerned about 50 taels of silver? Xie Xiuwen was already holding fire in her heart, and she no longer forgave. Following her words, she suggested dividing the family. As my mother said, the eldest brother is the eldest son, and this family should be inherited by the eldest brother in the future. Anyway, there's nothing to do with me and the third brother, so it's better for us to separate and clean up first. Xie Laosan was already impulsive, but now he was influenced by his second brother and shouted, "That's right. Since my mother doesn't like me and my second brother, we can just split up. It's unreasonable for my mother to hold the money that I and my second brother are filial to, and even point her nose at us and scold us for being nothing. This statement is too true." Xie Anhui froze there for a moment, neither crying nor not crying. Xie Rongzhao lifted his head at the right time and said with a curious expression, "Daddy, what is a family split? It's just that in the future, we will have a separate home and not live with them anymore." Xie Rongzhao's eyes lit up and she said, "Isn't it necessary to let Sister Rong use my things again in the future?" This made Grandpa Xie and Grandma Xie blush once again, while Gao was still kneeling on the ground. Hearing this, her face felt hot and she dared not lift her head. Xie Xiuwen smiled and touched her head, saying, "Well behaved, even if it's not separated, your things are still yours. There's no need to let Rong's sister go. She has her own parents, and if she wants something, she naturally needs to go find her parents. How can she come to you?" After hearing these words, Xie Shiran and Gao Shi lowered their heads by 3 points. This was a disguised way of cursing them for taking advantage of a little girl. Xie Rongrong, who was outside the door, couldn't bear to listen anymore. She rushed in and shouted, "You little slut, what are you talking about? What do I need from you?" End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Black Belly Beauty Dad. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Black Belly Beauty Dad. Xie Rongzhao seemed scared and hugged Xie Xiuwen's neck tightly, saying, "Daddy, I'm afraid." Xie Xiuwen quickly patted her back, afraid that Guaibao would be scared again. Big brother and sister. Law are really good tutors. Rong and her sister are just girls, and when they speak up, they are like little sluts. Are you afraid that others will think that the reputation of our Xie family's girls is too good? Xie Xiuwen's voice was not loud, and he didn't have much force, but it was his light words that made several people in the room change their faces. Xie Rongrong stomped her feet in anger and said, "Don't slander me, I'm not afraid of you." Xie Rongzhao turned his head and spoke with a crying voice, "Why didn't you ask for my things? Didn't you snatch the small lantern my uncle made for me last month? And you also took the handkerchief my aunt made for me. Can't I give it to you?" After speaking, Xie Rongzhao's tears fell with a snap, clearly indicating that he was truly wronged. Xie Xiuwen remained silent, just staring at the couple with a cold face, while Lu Rulan wiped tears and comforted her daughter. Xie Anhui was already annoyed by Xie Xiuwen. If it weren't for him, why would the family need to take out 50 taels of silver? What's the noise about? Children playing around at home, what's wrong with you? But how many little tricks do you really think you're a darling that others can't touch? Xie Xiuwen's face turned even colder. He could hear that while he was talking about those things openly, he was secretly cursing his obedient treasure. Humph, whose family is not the eldest son inheriting the family business? You go around to inquire and find out the same truth. Now it's just a matter of giving out some silver in advance, and it's worth your brother's fuss. Grandpa Xie had long known that this old wife was too biased towards the wealthy, but he didn't expect her to say such things. Isn't this making the other two sons feel cold? Nonsense. I'm not dead yet, what family should I share? After speaking, Grandpa Xie glared fiercely at his old wife and said, "This family belongs to our big family. When will we become the leader? The second and third are not your sons." Xie Anhui also knew she had just said the wrong thing, so she casually wiped her eyes and dared not speak. Grandpa Xie looked at his three sons and said helplessly, "Rong, go back first." Xie Rongzhao was unwilling, afraid that after she left, Xie Rongzhao would accuse her behind the scenes. But at this moment, Gao Shi knew that their long room was being annoyed by the old man, so he naturally didn't dare to cause any more trouble. He kept winking at Xie Rongzhao, and then coaxed him away. "Let's do it this way. The big house will give you 30 taels, and the middle court will give you 20 taels." Gao became anxious upon hearing this and said, "Daddy, how can we have so much silver? They have fallen out of this group, and now Grandpa Xie still adheres to some noble ways, just hoping to regain his former glory. Nowadays, the Xie family is not rich in silver, and the male members of the family only receive 21 per month, while the female family members do not have it. Gao comes from an ordinary family, with an average background. It is only natural for her to say that she cannot afford 30 taels of silver." Xie Xiuwen glanced at his hesitant father and sneered in his heart. "It's time to insert the knife." Xie Xiuwen said softly, "I happen to remember. Last month, Rong and her sister brought back a Lingji plant. I don't know how much it costs. Why hasn't this silver money been handed over to my mother yet?" The word settled, and the whole room fell silent. And Xie Lao San, the first one, started jumping around and said, "You're such a great boss. Your house is really amazing. You got Lingji and secretly sold it without paying it to the public." "What do you mean?" "It's just me and my second brother who are stupid together, right?" "Okay, you're really good. We can't live these days anymore." Bang! Xie Lao San has an impulsive temperament and is also a hands-on person. He kicked the stool in front of him with just one kick. Xie, the boss, had originally planned to show his elder brother's spectrum, but was suddenly shocked by him and his legs began to soften unconsciously. The matter with Lingji is true. Xie Rongzhao is overweight. Last month, she stole Xie Rongzhao's silver entangled bracelet and put it on. She then went outside to show off and accidentally dug up Lingji in the mountains. Xie Laoda and Gao Shi are both open-minded individuals who can exchange money for good things, so they naturally need to be careful when hiding them. Afterwards, Mr. Xie took it to the hospital in the town and only received 20 taels of silver because Lingji was not too big. This money has reached Mr. Xie's hands, so it is naturally impossible to entrust all of it to Gao Shi for safekeeping. He lied that he only sold 15 taels and kept 5 taels privately. Unexpectedly, it has now been dug up by Xie Xiuwen. Gao naturally refused to acknowledge it. If this money enters her hands, it will naturally be hers. How can she spit it out again? What Lingji? There's nothing else, second brother, you can't just talk nonsense. Xie Xiuwen said calmly, "Is that right? Why don't we go to the Ping'an Medical Center and ask?" I believe the medicine boy and the shopkeeper still have an impression of Lingji, so they shouldn't forget it so quickly. If it weren't for the careful investigation in town this time, I'm afraid the Lingji incident would have been concealed. As soon as Mr. Xie heard him say the name of the clinic, he knew that he couldn't keep this matter hidden. Gao's face turned pale with fear, her head drooping as if she had died halfway. Grandpa Xie thought he was the head of the family, but he never expected his eldest son to dare to make such a small move under his nose, which made him very angry. All right. You're really making a name for yourself. You've benefited from it, and you're actually trying to keep it from us. It is said that the eldest son's family has secretly hidden silver money, and Grandpa Xie is even more angry than when he just learned that the eldest son is going to sell his niece. Xie Xiuwen was naturally noticed and slightly curled his lips, a faint mockery floating in his eyes. Xie, the boss, dared not lie anymore and knelt down with a thud to apologize. Father, to be honest, the Lingji was only exchanged for 15 taels of silver in total. His son didn't dare to use it recklessly, just wanted to see if he could buy some pens, ink, paper, and ink stones for Brother Hui. He wouldn't dare to move them around. Xie Xiuran mentioned his son at this moment, naturally thinking that his father could spare him for the sake of Changxuan's face. Sure enough, when Grandpa Xie thought of his eldest grandson who was still in school, his anger subsided a bit. Xie Anhui took the opportunity and said, "Don't be angry, the head of the family. Even if the boss is wrong, he is only focused on making Hui Gu'er successful, which is reasonable." Xie Xiuwen knew it would be like this, so he deliberately shook his head towards his third brother with a helpless gaze, indicating that he should not oppose his mother. Xie Lao-san, however, became even angrier and laughed angrily, saying, "Mother's words make no sense. Last month, I shot a few rabbits and just wanted to keep one for my youngest child to play with. You scolded me and said, I don't care about my family. Why is it reasonable for my eldest brother to dare to hide 10 or 5 taels of silver now? Since my eldest brother's son is your grandson, isn't it?" End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Most Thoughtful Little Cotton Coat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Most Thoughtful Little Cotton Coat. Xie Lao-san doesn't read much, and his speech is also vague. At this time, he can't care much, just focus on his own happiness. His words made Xie Anhui's face turn purple. If the second person said this, Xie Anhui would definitely curse heavily, but it happened to be the third person who said it. Xie Anhui didn't curse for a while, so admitting it would be even worse. Grandpa Xie also knows that no matter what, it was his eldest son who made a mistake. In front of his other 2 sons, he could no longer favor his eldest son. Alright, as the saying goes, you guys pay out 30 taels of silver on your own, and the remaining 20 taels will be paid out from the public. Tomorrow, you will follow the boss to the Fong family and watch him return the silver and retrieve the promissory note. Do you hear that? I heard it. This family has lost 50 taels of silver for no reason, and I don't know how many prey I need to hunt to get it back. Grandpa Xie glared angrily at him and warned him to speak less. Deducting a family's monthly payment for 3 months. Gao became anxious and said, "How can we do this? Rong and her sister still need to see each other, and Hui and her brother also need to study. If there is no monthly income for 3 months, what should we do?" Xie Xiuwen stood by, quietly repairing his knife and said, "It's not easy. Let Rong's sister dig another plant of Lingji and sell it, won't it?" Gao. Chan Fong's family. Killing the heart. Xie Lao-san was secretly chuckling on the side, saying that if this person doesn't use dirty words, it must be his second brother. Xie Rongzhao also lay in Xie Xiuwen's arms and chuckled. Don't think he didn't know that his father had intentionally provoked Uncle San just now. Otherwise, could he make Uncle's situation so difficult? Gao returned to the room with an angry expression, originally thinking of a plan of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Unexpectedly, he lifted a stone and smashed himself in the foot. Not only did he fail to let Xie Rongzhao go to the Fang family to block the disaster, but he also caused their big house to lose 30 taels of silver and go out. He was really so angry that his heart, liver, and lungs were in pain. But Xie Xiuwen looked at the empty hall with a cold expression on his face. Although Zhao Zhao was the bitter master, there was no one to say a word to him from beginning to end. Although he had dealt with the big house, what should be the compensation in compensation for Zhao Zhao? Sure enough, Zhao Zhao was also burdened by his unpopular father. Xie Rongzhao was extremely angry in her heart. I originally planned to push Xie Rongzhao to the Fang family to prevent the disaster, and there was no need to repay the 50 taels of silver. Along the way, I could please the Fang family and exchange some benefits for myself. However, everything fell through. Little slut, let me make you proud for a while. When Uncle Heir returns to the private school, no one will protect you. I see you dare to be arrogant again. Xie Rongzhao sat on the embroidered mound and cursed softly for a while before feeling better. She opened her makeup box and rummaged for a few times before realizing she was missing something. Where's my bracelet? Why are the hairpins missing? Where's my silver bell? Although Xie Rongzhao is domineering, she is not foolish. Those things were originally not hers, so she naturally dared not speak up. Damn bitch, when did you dare so much and even steal into my house? Wait for me and see how I'll deal with you tomorrow. Xie Xiuwen held his daughter and escorted her back to the room. The disaster prevention frightened her greatly and she needed to be well comforted. Xie Rongzhao is currently lying in the arms of her beautiful father, lost in thought. She recalled the news she had learned from that clan uncle in her previous life, and her mood became increasingly heavy. The reason why my dad ruined his throat and injured his leg was because he was running around trying to save himself and leave the Fang family. His articles received praise from several gentlemen and he was optimistic that he could win in one fell swoop. When the news reached the Fang family, he naturally couldn't sit still. They brought Xie Rongzhao into the mansion to prevent disasters. If Xie Xiuwen was successful, wouldn't it be like setting up a powerful enemy for the Fang family? In this way, they united with Xie Xiuran and together destroyed Xie Xiuwen's path of scientific research. The more Xie Rongzhao thought about it, the more she felt that her father was truly talented. As long as he was willing, he would definitely be able to go to high school. Since he knew the whole story, Xie Rongzhao could no longer let himself and his family become cannon fodder. He had to do something for their future. After Xie Xiuwen placed her on the bed, he took a wooden basin and went outside to fetch water. There should be warm hot water on the stove, which happened to scoop up to wash hands and feet for Guaibao. When he returned, he saw a picture of a little person contemplating life here. Guaibao, what are you thinking? Xie Rongzhao sat cross-legged on the bed, holding his cheeks with two small hands. Daddy, you're so amazing today. Xie Xiuwen deliberately teased her and said, oh. So, what's so impressive about Daddy? Xie Rongzhao's eyes were blank, as if he was still reminiscing about the war without gunpowder. Being powerful means being powerful. Dad made Uncle and his team punished, and he also protected the good baby. Dad is the most powerful dad in the world. Xie Xiuwen laughed heartily and was indeed a child. Dad, are you going to take the scientific examination next year? Do you have to go to the academy to study? Xie Xiuwen's smile faded slightly and he didn't answer directly. Instead, he washed her face and hands first, and after wiping her little face clean, he asked, what did Guaibao hear? Xie Rongzhao pouted and said, I heard from Brother Jingzhou before that we should study hard and achieve fame, so that we can contribute to our country and protect our loved ones in the future. Anyway, Brother Jingzhou is not here either, and Xie Rongzhao is using it very calmly. Xie Xiuwen touched her head. This pink and tender little ball was his own precious daughter, and he could still say such a thing, which is unmatched by ordinary kids. Guaibao is not afraid, with your father protecting you. Now that the matter with the Fang family has been completely resolved, you don't have to worry about being pulled to block the disaster anymore. Xie Rongzhao leaned in his arms, feeling the warmth emanating from his father's body. His little hand gripped one of his fingers and said, "Dad, I know you're not happy teaching. I'll help Dad earn money. Dad wants to take the civil service exam, and then take Guaibao to sit in a sedan chair, okay?" Xie Xiuwen was delighted to hear that his obedient treasure was indeed the most thoughtful little cotton jacket. Such a small person knows he's coming to earn money to support his studies, how can he get away with it in the future? Xie Xiuwen hugged the little person in his arms and lightly rubbed his chin against the head of Guibao's head. A sense of perseverance inadvertently surged into his heart. The next morning, Xie Xiuwen went to greet his elders and chatted with Grandpa Xie alone. If Changfang does something wrong, it is impossible for him to show no signs at all. Grandpa Xie knew that his second son felt sorry for his wife, so he directly exempted her from household chores for a year, and had Gao make up for it. He also asked them to apologize to his second son's family, and this matter was over. Xie Xiuwen still feels unhappy in his heart, but he knows that this is already the best result so far. If he wants his parents to severely punish his elder brother, the possibility is simply non-existent. Besides, he will have to take the imperial examination in the future. If he offends everyone in his family too harshly, it may not be easy for his wife and daughter to live at home. "Father, I still have to teach my classes at the private school until the end of next month. I haven't discussed this matter with the private school yet, so there may be some side issues. I will leave the matter of my going to study to you for now. What does my father think?" End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Lucky. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Lucky. Grandpa Xie always responds. Although his second son is not likable, his handling is thoughtful and delicate, which is incomparable to the other two sons. "Don't worry, even with your mother, I won't say much for now." In fact, Xie Xiuwen had already agreed with the private school that he would leave after the end of this month, but he still had to keep a hand. As for the so-called confidential matters between father and mother, they can be kept hidden for 10 or 8 days even if they go to heaven. It was almost the end of the month, and by the time his mother found out, he should have already gone to the capital. However, he had to arrange his home properly to prevent his wife and daughter from being mistreated by the family again. Xie Rongzhao got dressed in the morning and went to ask his father about going up the mountain today. Xie Rongzhao was full of confidence, but she didn't believe that Xie Rongrong could dig Lingji, but she couldn't. Xie Rongrong saw that Xie Rongzhao had gone to the front yard, so she opened the door and ran straight to the old table placed by the window. This old table was repaired with Xie Xiuwen's childhood desk and given to Xie Rongzhao for use. It is very old, and the paint on it cannot be seen its true color. Although it is not valuable, it carries the childhood of his father, so Xie Rongzhao has always liked it. Xie Rongrong searched for a long time but couldn't find the jewelry she had lost. Feeling unwilling, she thought of flipping through her bed again. Xie Rongzhao's room is particularly small, it used to be a miscellaneous room in the family, and the windows were also very small. Xie Rongzhao's bed was also changed from the previous long room. As soon as Xie Rongrong helped her to the bed, there was a creaking sound. After all, it was a guilty conscience. With this sound, Xie Rongrong was startled for a moment. After cursing a word of bad luck, she was thinking of continuing. When she heard the voices of outsiders speaking, she had no choice but to immediately retreat. Just because time was too tight, Xie Rongrong didn't have time to lock the door. After Xie Rongzhao returned, he saw that the door was slightly closed and the lock was also open, so he had a clear idea in his mind. Sure enough, there were traces of being searched and picked up in the room. Xie Rongzhao quietly took the wrung wet handkerchief and wiped the inside and outside of his makeup box, then wiped the tabletop and window frames again, striving to be clean and traceless. Xie Rongzhao finished all of this and then went to the corner to get her small shovel and her exclusive small backpack, and went up the mountain with her father. Xie Rongzhao didn't forget to take out his previously hidden money box and show it to his father. The silver coins of the Daji dynasty were strictly controlled, and ordinary households had little access to gold and silver. The main currency in circulation was copper coins. This is also one of the main reasons why Xie Rongzhao came up with the idea of sending his niece over to pay off the debt after writing a note of 50 taels of silver owed. Xie Rongzhao wrote silver on the IOU, so naturally he had to repay the silver. If it was to be offset with copper money, it would depend on whether the host was willing. Moreover, if it was to be repaid with copper money, he would have to pay more before the other party would be willing to give up. The usual amount of money is 1,000 won, which can be exchanged for about 1 or 2 silver coins. This mainly depends on the price of grain. The exchange of silver coins and copper coins is generally based on the price of grain and not fixed. Generally, people will thread money with hemp or cotton ropes, and string it into a string of 100 won, which is called a hanging money. Not bad, our Zhao Zhao is really capable. He actually saved up so much. Did this come specifically for me? Xie Rongzhao pushed the money in Xie Rongzhao's direction with a milky voice and said, "Give it to daddy, daddy, study and take exams, and become a high-ranking official in the future. This is money that has been saved for almost a year." It's not easy to save red envelopes that are usually given to oneself by the elders of the maternal family during festivals. Xie Rongzhao didn't miss the heartache in Xie Rongzhao's eyes and laughed heartily. After all, he is still a child with a sincere heart, but for a 5-year-old child, saving up this 100 won is quite difficult. Okay, we're the best. Let's go, daddy will take you up the mountain. Xie Rongzhao was full of confidence, waving her small fists and her short legs twitching happily, but before leaving home too far, she was panting heavily. Without it, he is too short, his physical strength is poor, and his steps are too big. Xie Rongzhao heard his daughter's panting and suddenly patted his forehead, saying, "It's my dad's carelessness. Come on, dad, hold you up the mountain. Walk slowly towards the foot of the mountain, big and small." Occasionally encountering a few acquaintances on the road, it's inevitable to say hello. Xie Rongzhao regained his life and naturally knew the benefits of his sweet mouth. When he saw these relatives and neighbors, he naturally called out sweetly. His soft and cute voice, combined with his cute smile, made the big guy feel that this child was really sensible and well-behaved. The father and daughter wandered on the mountain for half an hour without finding anything. Of course, they couldn't have gone up the mountain to dig wild vegetables, at least they had to get some medicinal herbs or beat a wild chicken. Unfortunately, Xie Rongzhao doesn't have hunting skills, and Xie Rongzhao hasn't found any valuable medicinal herbs yet. Isn't that a bit disheartened? Xie Rongzhao sighed. At a young age, this sighing posture was somewhat cute. As she walked, she was thinking about how to thank Rongrong for being so lucky and being able to pick Ganoderma in an instant. Is this really the good luck that bracelets bring to her? Xie Rongzhao instinctively looked at the silver entangled bracelet on his wrist, and a hint of doubt arose in his heart. If it was really the good luck brought by this bracelet, then why hadn't he picked a bead of Ganoderma lucidum in all these days of climbing the mountain? Xie Rongzhao was not in a hurry. He took Guibao up the mountain mainly to relax and let Guibao forget those unpleasant things as soon as possible. He didn't want to leave alone, and Guibao was scared and fell ill again. Their different purposes naturally lead to different attitudes. Xie Rongzhao was a bit anxious. Without any silver money, even if Anai nodded, he would definitely nag and even withhold his father's expenses. She didn't want her father to cut off his path to the imperial examination due to a lack of money. She lowered her head and glanced at the small bracelet, then reached over and touched it with her right hand. "It's up to you whether you can change your destiny," she said. Xie Rongzhao carried a small bamboo basket on her back and a relatively small shovel in her hand. This was specially crafted by her father for her, and it was not particularly sharp. She had enough grass to cut. Dad, what is this? Although Xie Rongzhao had some speculations in her heart, she is still young now, so she can't even be said to know herbs she has never seen before, can she? Xie Rongzhao took her little hand and walked a few more steps. Because it relied on the mountains to eat, most farmers here had a certain understanding of common herbs. However, the one that appeared now, Xie Rongzhao was not sure, so he approached carefully and took out a small knife from the basket, thinking of digging it out to see. I didn't expect that this time I was really lucky. What Xie Rongzhao discovered was actually a tianma plant. No, it's not a single plant, but a small patch of Gastrodia alata. End of this chapter.